And all this time, I'm still looking out that same window. And within that matter of time, I would say that was probably less than 2 minutes. You see like the cops, maybe 3 or 4 cops come walking in formation with like the shields and these long ass guns, you know what I mean? And so they made a turn like behind where we were, which would have put them basically by the front door to come into the bar. But you couldn't see them anymore because they were outside. And then literally at that moment, you probably heard 30 shots go off. And at this point, everyone in the bar hits the ground because it sounded so close.
What'd those shots sound like compared to the other ones?
Like the other ones sounded faint. You know what I mean? The other ones was like, pack, 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 like in the distance. And they sounded like they could be firecrackers.
And
like
when
these shots were like a machine gun, like loud.
And we're back. Hey, everybody, it's Darren Carter, the party starter. We have Kareem Matthews on.
Yeah.
Dude, this is hilarious. We look with our Zoom backgrounds. We look so mismatched. Like I look like I'm in some cabin. You know, it's like it's always sunny out here. You're calling from outer space, and then like the way my camera's situated, I look like a tall giant. Then you look like you're crouching down out of some hole out there on Mars or something. And then reality, you're like 6'7".
And you're 5'7".
I know. That's hilarious, man. What's going on? How are you, man? It's so good to see you. And right out the gate, let's just get into it. You were in Redondo Beach performing at the pier, and there was a shooting last week, and you were there that night as it happens. Walk us through what happened.
Yeah, it was crazy, man. Well, it was a bar gig, you know what I mean? So I got there probably around right at 8. We were supposed to start at 8. And so it started more around 8:15. Chantel Ray, it was her gig and she was the host. So she was up on stage and like I heard, I was sitting in the back near the bar and I heard like a pack, 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 like, 3 faint, could have sounded like firecrackers. So then I looked at the window. There was a comic that was going up that night sitting by the window. He was talking to his friend and I saw him say to his friend, "Were those gunshots?" Like I could read his lips. And he said, "Were those gunshots?" And his friend, I couldn't read what his friend's lips said, but he kind of, shook his head no or whatever. And so they kind of just turned back and watched the show. So I did the same thing. Then literally a minute or so later, you heard pack, pack again. And I was like, okay, wait a minute. Those could possibly be gunshots, you know what I mean? So at that point, it started to become a little bit more what's going on. And so then I look out the other window to the other side and I see people running on the boardwalk and I hear people yelling and he's that way. And I was like, okay, this is real, you know what I mean? But at this time, Chantel is still on stage, but I'm looking out the window like, yo, something's going on. And I don't know how, but within seconds, somehow the bartenders knew what was going on because they walked up to Chantel on stage and said something to her, And then Chantel was like, "Should we tell everyone?" And they were like, no. And all this time, I'm still looking out that same window. And within that matter of time, I would say that was probably less than 2 minutes. You see like the cops, maybe 3 or 4 cops come walking in formation with like the shields and these long ass, I don't even know. They look like Taliban type guns, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so they made a turn like behind where we were, which would have put them basically by the front door to come into the bar. But you couldn't see them anymore because they were outside. And then literally at that moment, you probably heard 30 shots go off. And at this point, everyone in the bar hits the ground because it sounded so close.
What'd those shots sound like compared to the other ones?
Like the other ones sounded faint. You know what I mean? The other ones was like pack, 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 like in the distance. And they sounded like they could be firecrackers.
And
like
when
these shots were like a machine gun, like loud as hell. I mean, obviously because they were closer, but also it was a higher definitely sound like a higher power weapon. And it was a lot more shots. You know what I mean? So when that went off, everybody in the bar, I was more like the second version. Yeah, not pop,
And you
pop, pop, pop. Yeah,
you guys are like, this is not a drill. This is real.
Right.
This is like,
and they were literally they were outside of the front door shooting, so it sounded like they were inside shooting. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then at that point, you didn't know if a bullet was going to come in or not. So everyone hit the ground, like everyone was under tables. Except a handful of people that were by that first window, they actually started recording. So a couple people actually got the cops shooting the suspect on camera, you know what I mean? And then it was dark over by where the suspect was. So when the cops shot him, he fell onto the rocks and like you couldn't see, like, well, at least I couldn't see where he was, but everyone that was recording was like, the body is right there. The body is right there. And I'm like, I can't see it, but I'm going to take your word for it because I heard all those shots. And obviously they were shooting at something, you know what I mean? So like maybe a minute or two after that, we hear, and we're like, oh shit, what the hell is that? You know what I mean? Turns out it was the cops. They come in with the guns drawn, like big ass long shotguns just out. Like no hey, we're coming in, no warm up or nothing. They just barged in these long ass guns, and they're like everyone away from the window. You know what I mean? So they went to the window that the people were just at, stuck the guns out the window, and were like pointing it down.
Oh, the windows were like they were open where you could actually stick a gun out of a window. You didn't have to break the window or nothing.
No, well, they weren't open originally, but they were sliding windows.
Oh.
You know what I mean? So when I keep saying we, but when Richard and those guys were standing by the window, they were closed. But when the cops came, they slid them open to put the gun out. You know what I mean? So they were pointing at the rocks thinking like whatever they had shot at was going to move. And we're like, yo, whatever you shot at, you killed. You know what I mean? But they posted up like that for like 2-3 minutes. Then a couple minutes later, another cop comes in and he's like, everyone has to leave. Everyone out of here. Close your tab. Everyone has to go. And we're like, wait, didn't you just say there was an active shooter outside?
I know.
And he was like, yes, but you still got to go. You know what I mean? So like,
oh my gosh.
I know, yo, it was crazy. So they funneled us out. They had like cops, you know, waiting by the door. Then they had cops at the bottom of the stairwell. So we couldn't like veer off. You know what I mean? They basically guided us out to like the street area. And when we get out there, I would say at least 50 police cars, like literally from the pier all the way up to PCH with police cars lined up. You know what I mean? And the guys that were looking through the window, they said when the cops shot the first dude, they saw 2 people run into the parking structure. So we were thinking it was 2 more shooters on the loose. You know what I mean? So that's what we thought the cops were looking for. But it turned out that those 2 people that ran were actually the 2 people that the shooter shot.
Guys, how you like the show so far? Pretty good, right? Kind of weird that I'm out here in the country with the chair next to me, but anyways, if you like this show and you want to help out, go to Cameo. I do birthday shout-outs, anniversary shout-outs, or if you just want to do a donation, go to DarrenCarter.com, PayPal, or Venmo at Darren Carter Comic. Now let's get back to the show.
Because I guess those 5 shots we heard at the beginning was the shooter in the parking lot randomly shooting at people. And I guess 2 people got shot, but he missed. You know, he missed, I guess, you know, he shot 5 times and missed 3, but 2 people were hit. So then like that night, seeing all those police cars, it was like we figured it was no way they were going to let us get our cars out of there. You know what I mean? So we ended up having to Uber home. But back the story up a little bit. So the first comic that night was late. Was Daphne. Daphne Springs was supposed to be the first comic, but she was late. So she was in the parking lot when the shooting actually started up.
Wow, in that parking garage, right where it was happening. Wow.
Right. So she made a video. Like I don't know what made, well, obviously it was the shooting, but she took a video, and in her video, you can hear the pack, pack, pack. And she's like, oh my God, they're shooting. Why are they shooting? And then you just hear her say, Chantel, I am not coming up there. It was like, it was funny, but it wasn't funny. I mean, her narration of it was hilarious, but it was just like, wow. I mean, any of us could literally have been in that parking lot because it literally was like a half-hour window from the time that we were in the parking lot. Oh wow. It was a Long Beach guy, huh?
Yeah, I just saw on the Redondo Beach Pier shooter identified as a Long Beach man.
Yeah, because that night they said he was a black man in his 20s to 30s. And like,
dude, that's got to be, did that feel weird being like, hey, I could I know you're not in your 20s or your 30s, but it could cross your mind. Like, I'm not,
the shooter. Right. Oh,
yeah.
Dude. I mean, I live with that. You know what I mean? Like, I live with that on a daily basis, matching the suspect. You know what I mean? So it's like,
that could be a t-shirt at your merch table. I'm not the shooter. No.
Right, I'm not the suspect.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, that's nothing new, man. But I mean, in this case, though, they had killed the shooter, so it's like, they knew it wasn't me, but man, like
his name was Kenneth Vessel. He was 36 years old. And it says, I said, listen to this. It said, the suspect was armed with a handgun and a knife.
Yeah, I heard that part. And then they were also like in the pursuit. He was shot during the pursuit or when the cops were trying to apprehend him. And I'm like, there was no apprehension. Like they came ready to let go. Like, there wasn't any like, stop, don't run. Like they came around the corner firing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I mean, usually I'm like, man, why'd they kill that dude? He was running. They shot him in the back. But this time it was like, he was randomly shooting in the parking lot. Like I feel like
it said that he shot a man and a boy.
Yeah. And those were the two people that we saw that they thought it was three people. Those were the two that ran the parking lot. You know what I mean? Were the ones that got hit. Yeah, and man. And it was crazy because, again, I was literally in that parking lot like 30 minutes earlier. And I remember thinking when I was in the parking lot, I was like, yo, this is a wide open parking lot. Like there would have been no place to hide. Nothing to duck behind. Usually parking lots have pillars in them. Or, It was just a wide open space. Like I think the parking spaces didn't even have those bricks. Usually they have a brick in front of them to like stop.
Yeah.
They didn't even have those. It was just
it
was just lines painted on the ground. You know what I mean? I remember thinking that when I was originally in the parking lot before the shooting even started, like, wow. Look how wide open this parking lot is, you know what I mean? And then literally 10 minutes later, there's a shooter in that parking lot.
Wow. Has this changed your life in any way, like that you've noticed so far, or not really?
Well, I mean, immediately it did. Like the next day I didn't have my car. Like, it was like, I don't know, for like 48 hours, I was just kind of like, it was draining. I would say I was just kind of like drained. Like the whole experience, like, I don't know. It was like you have such a high rush that when you come down, you're like drained. You know what I mean? I don't know how to explain it any other way, but like that Thursday, and it wasn't until Friday that I started like really getting back up and getting out again. Like when I got home Wednesday night, it was a wrap. And when I woke up Thursday, it was like, it still wasn't over because I still hadn't gotten my car. And I actually went up there Thursday morning and they still wouldn't let you get your car. I went up there like Thursday at 7 a.m. They're like, the body is still on scene. And I was like, what? That shit happened last night. There's no coroner that could have gotten here by now.
I know. You're like, it's not in the parking garage. Like, come on, give me my phone charger. Right?
No, seriously, because I didn't have my phone charger.
I know. I remember we talked on the phone. I was like, what? And
yeah, I didn't have my charger for that next. I mean, I actually ended up having to go and buying another charger. You know what I mean? Because my shit was running dead. Because I didn't even end up getting my car till Thursday night, almost 10 o'clock. So. Yeah, man. But I mean, I would say overall, it probably hasn't changed my life in the long run. But I mean, because again, I always stay on my P's and Q's. You know what I mean? Because like I said, I was looking at that parking lot when I got there, before there was even a shooter, I had noticed how wide open it was. So that's the kind of shit I pay attention to in general. You know what I mean? So it's like,
one time I went on tour. I got to do a great gig with Cat Williams. I wouldn't say tour. It was like a one thing. They flew us all out to Florida and I got paid a lot of money. It was great, man. We each had a limo for the night. Me, Bruce, Cat Williams, Coco Brown. I mean, and it was awesome. And so I ended up hanging out with Cat Williams afterwards. And at that point, he had I don't know if it was his friend or a bodyguard or what, but it was this black dude who had blue cowboy boots and blue contact lenses. And we ended up going to like this nightclub that was, I don't know if they were just playing reggae music. I don't know what it was, but it was packed. It was like the fire marshal was going to break it up. Like it was that packed. And I think the fire marshal.
This was pre-COVID.
Oh yeah, this is pre-COVID. Yeah. And but I remember like I did feel like there was an element of danger possibly because it was so packed and just anytime you get into a situation like that where there's guys and girls and drinking and stuff, and we had a little VIP
black people.
Let's just say it. I was minding my P's and Q's. No. My pimps and my queens. No. And but I remember the dude with the blue contact lenses. He was he's like, here's what he said. He goes, "Look, man, if anything pops off," he goes, just put your back against the wall and let chaos happen around you. I was like, okay. I don't know if that was. Basically, like, I don't know if that was good advice, but kind of, it did make sense at the moment. I think that guy might have been an off-duty cop. I don't know who that guy was. It was interesting, though. No,
I've heard like, because like some mob dudes, they never want to sit with their backs to the door when they go in places. You know what I mean? They always want to be facing the door. So I feel like that's probably that same type of thought process. If your back is against the wall, then nothing can come at you from behind. Everything that's going to be happening is going to be happening in front of you. That that's pretty smart.
Yeah, and I know like like you're right. Like when you go to a diner, you want to be able to like a lot of cops, whatever. Like they like to see like who's coming in. You want to kind of see what's around you as opposed to like I am oblivious. And
right.
That's another thing. A lot of people were glued to their phones. Like I will never be in a crosswalk looking at my phone. If anybody ever sees me or hears me on this podcast and you catch me in a crosswalk on my phone, I give you permission to floor it. No, I'm just kidding. No.
You'll get a free sticker.
Yeah, I'll give you a free shout out. Hey, you got me. But I'll pay you like $20 or something because it's never going to happen. I'm never going to be in a crosswalk on my phone ever.
Well, if that's the case, raise it to $50.
I mean, I might,
You're like, I'll pay you $2 because it's never gonna happen.
It's funny because I did say it's never gonna happen, and then one time I was in a crosswalk, and for a quick second, I did hit pause on the podcast I was listening to, and I'm like, hey, this kind of technically counts because for a quick second I did like look down to hit pause, but
luckily no one saw you, Darren.
Exactly. So they can't. So I don't have to pay nobody.
$2. But it's crazy because like I was something like that kind of popped in my head recently because at the haha we're always on that sidewalk, just hanging out, especially when they have the outdoor shows. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and North Hollywood, Lancashire. Yeah.
And I know there's been a few times when I've caught myself with my back to the street. Just like facing the club. And I always catch myself to just turn the other way, to just always make sure like I'm looking to see what's coming from the street, because.
But the problem with that is the haha is such a shady club. When I turn my back, I feel scared, like who's coming out of the club. And then I'm just, I'm just kidding. We're kidding you, haha. Yeah.
We love you guys.
I'm like a rotisserie chicken out there. Like, where do I turn my back? It's scary up here. Yeah. Everywhere I look.
I'd rather be facing the street in case cars come by because we had that incident with the people being killed by the racers and I don't know, man. It's just so much.
And there's some wild. There's a homeless encampment a couple blocks away under the overpass, and so there are those dudes that come around and so far nothing's happened, but like they do kind of come into the territory of the club and they kind of look around and.
Like last week, a dude was riding his bike, like he rode his bike right through us. Because, there's always a crowd of people on that sidewalk, So it's like he could have gotten off the sidewalk and rode in the street. But he decided to ride through everybody,
There was a guy one night that was banging on all the cars, and then the security had to chase him away. Yeah, that was another thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's, little shit like that you just kind of pay attention to. I mean, you have a heightened awareness nowadays. There's just so much. I mean, And the thing is, like, I guess it used to be like this too, but some of these instances are just seeming so random. You know what I mean? It's like sometimes I need a rhyme or reason, even if it's stupid. Like, oh, okay, it was gang related, or oh, it was a robbery. But when it's just like, oh, he randomly pulled out a handgun and started shooting at people, it's like, what? Like, you know,
I know.
It doesn't even let you feel like you could avoid something like that. You know what I mean?
I know. I'll back up the story a little bit. So Chantel Ray, the host of the show, what it is, there's a married couple. She married Richard. Kareem has mentioned Richard earlier in the show. He said he was standing by the window. And so Richard is a comedy club booker. He books Comedy Magic Club in Hermosa Beach, which has been there for 4 decades. Seinfeld, Gary Shandling. I mean, it's really, really Jay Leno, just a great club. And I just read right now that it's going to make a comeback. They're going to hopefully reopen. And it's just like a really nice, beautiful club. And he also books it's called the Stand-Up Comedy Club in Bellflower. It's another beautiful, brand new club in Bellflower. It's amazing. And then Chantel, she books this really cool bar gig, on the pier and a few others. And so I got to tell you, I made a little
attitude.
Yep. Oh, what's it called?
Starboard Attitude.
Starboard. Yes. And so my buddy, I did a little sketch earlier on my YouTube last week, and I wrote like giving a younger comic advice, which is funny because the guy's actually older than me. And the comedy advice, basically the bit was, he goes, what did you think of my set? And I'm like, it was actually Dr. Dean, who's a regular on the podcast, Dr. Dean Larrett. And he goes, what did you think there? And I go, well, you're a little wordy. And he's like, that's okay. I go, yeah. And I go, you're a little wordy. Everything else is good. I said, but you know what you need? And he goes, what's that? And then I whip out, the joke is a flashlight. Because I use a flashlight. And he's like, yeah. Right. So then this guy messaged me. He goes, hey, forget that guy, man. He's like 60 years old. He's actually like 57. He goes, guys like me need advice. What can you tell me? And I told him, I go, well, if Richard books you, dress nice, don't say the F word. And if Chantel books you, wear a bulletproof vest. And that guy was Ari Azizian. Shout out to Ari.
Okay.
Yeah, I knew he'd get a kick out of it because he knows both of them, and he works at Comedy Magic.
That's funny. What up, Ari? Shout out to Ari.
Yeah, he always listens when you're on, man. He loves you. Thinks you're hilarious.
Oh, thanks, man. Ari's a good kid.
Is it me or are you getting smaller on this? Dude, look at this. I'm like all close to the camera. So tell me what it was like. You're like, no. Yeah, you're like,
I know. Back up off me, Darren.
Yeah. So afterwards, you guys you walked to a 7-Eleven and then you had to all take Ubers home?
Yeah, that's basically how it ended. We had to walk like a few blocks away because, like I said, the cops were all the way up to PCH, so they weren't going to let any Ubers in that area.
Oh, by the way, I told 2 comics about what happened, and each comic listened to the story, but their first question was, and are you ready for this?
I already know it.
What is it? What do you
Did you get paid?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. He goes, I got to ask, did they get paid? Like, all right, enough of the danger. What happened?
Now into the business. Exactly. And to answer your question, yes, we got paid. Shout out to Chantel, because that was really cool of her, man. Like, she didn't have to do that, So yes, we did get
That's
paid.
Beautiful. That's beautiful, man. Man, and I'll go back. I'd love to go there. I'll go there soon. If she says the word, I'll be there,
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, I will, too. And it's funny because that's the thing that the people that were at the scene were saying, like, man, this is Redondo Beach. Nothing like this ever happens here. Like if this was Venice Beach, we wouldn't be surprised. I'm like, hey, stop talking about shit about Venice. That's my beach. You know what I
mean? Yeah, exactly.
But it's like nowadays, man, nowhere, it's sad to say, but nowhere is really safe. Like, you're not immune from this kind of thing anywhere. You know what I mean? Like, in the most expensive neighborhoods, the safest places in the country, crazy violent shit is happening, So it's like, you can't be afraid to live your life. You can't say, oh, I'm not going to go here. I'm not going to go there. I mean, obviously, you got to be vigilant and take precautions, but you can't, if you not go anywhere because something happened, then you're going to just, be in I was gonna say be in the house all the time, but we actually just lived through that. It's called quarantine.
I know. Oh my gosh. Gosh, there was another thing I was going to ask you about that night, but I forget. Okay, so we'll move on. Anything else you want to say, wrapping up that story?
No, it's just, you know, I don't know too many comics that have something like that in their comedy file. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it was funny because I mentioned that night to Richard, and it was one other time that he brought up that could be comparable. Remember when someone got shot on the porch at the Comedy Store?
Yes. Yeah.
Like during, I think it was Eric Myers was on stage.
Really? Oh.
I think Eric Myers was on stage because I remember him saying he looked out the window and all the chaos was breaking out. You know what I mean? Like, so that's the one other time I think someone could have a comparable happening at a comedy show.
Yeah, because I think that the criminals had parked across the street at what used to be the House of Blues. And they did like a gangland style like shooting on a specific person.
Right, where they just ran up onto the patio. Yeah. And they were looking for one specific person. They weren't shooting at people, but they ran up and shot whoever it was they were looking for, and then ran off. But yeah, you know, you don't usually get shootings at comedy shows.
I texted Richard the next day. I was like, "Hey, I'm glad you guys are okay." And he said, "Thank you." And then he goes, "Yeah, we're able to laugh about it now and feel good." He goes, "But you know, if you think about it too long," he goes, "it's scary, but we're okay." And then I wrote back, I said, "Hey man, if I was there, at least, you know, I would have had a flashlight." Officer, I see him on the rocks. He's right over there.
I know, it was crazy because there was a guy there that was like, "Hey, I have this really big bright flashlight in the back. I should go get it." I guess he worked there, and we were like, you know what, let's leave this to the professionals.
I know. Yeah, totally. Because you don't want to also draw attention. And what if there are other active shooters out there?
And you're like, oh, look at that flashlight in the window. Shoot it down.
I know. It's like a moth to a flame.
Though, because like later on that night when they were showing scenes of it on the news from the scene, like the cops ended up bringing this big ass like armored vehicle, like a battering ram type of thing. And that vehicle had like strobe lights or whatever. And they used that vehicle to flash onto the rocks. And that's how they were able to finally locate the body. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's like, if that body wasn't dead, like who knows how long he was just laying there like, help me. You know what I mean? 'Cause they didn't go right away. You know what I mean? They didn't go over there for a long time. So if that guy didn't die right away, it was like, that was but hey, I mean, you reap what you sow, you know what I mean? You're in the park shooting at people. Chances are you're not going to get the best medical aid.
Exactly, man. Gosh, you know, it's like, I just saw something like Sirhan, the guy that shot Robert Kennedy.
Oh, right.
Yeah, it was like 50 years ago, I believe. And then he's like up for parole, and it's like, I don't understand how that works. It's like, you know, I mean, that's, dude, you know what I mean? That's crazy. Like, okay, I'm all better now. 50 years later, it's like,
right. Well, I mean, I think that is enough time for someone to change. If you know what I mean, if change is possible, I think 50 years would be. I mean, because he's probably in his 80s now, right? 70s
I don't know, something like that. And I guess
he's been in jail for 50 years.
I said that even if he gets out, he can't stay in America. He has to go back to Palestine or something like that.
Oh, really? Is that what they said?
That's what I read. Yeah, I could be wrong though, guys. Listen, this is a comedy podcast. I'm not your news.
We're not about law here. We don't know all the details of the law. I
just kind of make it up as I go. Hey, let's do a little 80s trivia with you. Are you ready?
Okay. Yeah.
All right. Real quick. Okay, here we go. This is going to be, so I did one with John DeResta, and it was all about 80s heavy metal, and people thought it was a little too specific, which I agree, because I didn't even know the names of the groups, but I'm gonna go with this. Are you guys ready? You guys play at home as you're listening. This is going to be way too easy for Kareem, but let's ask anyways. The title track of a 1984 album, Purple Rain, was recorded by
Prince.
You got it. Billy, do you need a multiple choice, or you just want to jump out with the answer? Billie Jean was not his lover. Was it Bobby Brown, MC Hammer, Heavy D, Michael Jackson?
Michael Jackson.
You got it. Which 80s artist released Control in 1986? Also the name of the album.
Janet Jackson.
You got it. They wanted you to get down on it in 1981. Was it? Do you need multiple choice?
Yes.
Was it New Edition, Jungle Brothers, Kool and the Gang, Belle Biv DeVoe?
Kool and the Gang. Get down on it.
You got it. You get down on it. Get down on it. I love that. Dude, I heard all the people say.
Right.
This group wanted you to push it good in 1986. Was it Tony Tone, Boys to Men, Salt and Pepper, the Sugar Hill Gang?
Well, I know it wasn't Tony Tone because the name of the group is Tony. So if it was them, you'd have gotten the name right.
I know.
So I'm gonna go with Salt and Pepper.
Dang it! I actually knew that, but I guess I got because I'm reading it, and yes, it is Salt and Pepper. I'm reading it. I'm like, because I actually bought their album. I Care.
I was a big Tony fan. Yeah, they were
great.
It never and then I think Raphael Sadiq, right? Raphael Sadiq was in the group. He went solo.
Hey, who's doing trivia? Me or you? Yeah, sure. No. Prince. No.
Michael and Janet Jackson. Yeah. One of those got to be right.
I know. In 1982, The Message and its unabashed commentaries on life and society were released by Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five, Public Enemy, Run DMC, Mantronix.
I'm going to say Mantronix.
No, really? I knew this one. Well, because I'm a little older. Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five.
Oh,
The Message? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't know.
Oh, man. It's like it's one of the... It's a great... Classic. Oh, it's so great. Yeah, it's like a classic. Like, The Message. You know what? Okay. Planet Rock by blank was a song that should be felt, not heard. Rock, Planet Rock. Was it Biz Marquee, Africa Bambaataa, Big Daddy Kane, De La Soul?
Africa Bambaataa.
Yes.
It was either him or Curtis Blow. That's why I needed the option.
Yeah. I know. See, that's when I got into hip hop back then. It was like these are like really cool, like weird stories, and like it was easy. It was a little bit simpler. So like all the rhymes rhymed, you know, like I mean, you could see how they rhymed. Like we're the king of rock.
Really
yeah, exactly. There is none higher. Sucker MC shall call us sire. I will not quit till I
retire.
You wanted something like get to my kingdom, you must use fire. Exactly. I always tell the truth because I'm not
so dumb
liar. I know, dude. I know. I remember trying to
listen to this. I'm like, these guys are old.
I know. I tried to tell someone. I go, man, you got to listen to like real hip hop music from the '80s, man. Like it really pumps you up, man. You're like, you want to work out and exercise, you want to get a pump on, you got to like listen to like LL Cool J. And I'm like, I actually listened to it, and it didn't really, I don't know. It wasn't the same.
It didn't resonate as much as it did back in '88.
Yeah, '88, the first time you hear,
I'm back.
Sucker, I'm back. No rapper can rap quite like I can. I take a muscle bound man and put his face in the sand. I mean, or whatever. It just was, I was like, yeah, you know what? Let's just play whatever's out now. Like,
right. Even DMX would get you more hype than that.
DMX, I know, right? I remember I told you that when I go to the boxing gym, I always put on DMX, you know, up in here,
right? Y'all
and you're like,
make me lose my mind.
You're like, yeah, because that came out right around the age you were like in your peak physical condition, you know,
20 years ago.
Exactly, I know. I know, dude, it's hilarious. I was talking to some boxers, like, hey, how old were you when you started? And they were like 7. How old were you? And then some of the guy was like 13. And then they asked me, I was like 46. Like, dude, what are you doing,
that was
guy?
10 years ago.
That was 10 years ago. Yeah, I know. This singer has a lot of soul in her hit Lover Girl. Is it MC Lyte, Whitney Houston, Tina Marie, Aretha Franklin?
Aretha Franklin?
I'm going to guess Aretha Franklin because they said soul. And the answer is not Aretha Franklin. My next guess, I'm going to say Whitney. Are you going to say MC Lyte, Tina Marie, or Whitney?
I don't think it's Whitney. Do you know
not,
the answer?
I will find out. Okay, so it's not Aretha, it's not Whitney. The singer has a lot of soul in her hit Lover Girl. Okay, I'm going to say Tina Marie.
Probably her.
Because she actually doesn't rap. Oh my gosh. What the heck? Oh, wait, maybe this thing's broke.
Who was it?
Yeah. Well, it's not giving me the answer.
They don't even know.
That's so weird. First name starts with an E is the hint. That doesn't even make sense. The singer has a lot of soul in her hit Lover Girl. That's so weird. Look what happens. I don't know if you can see this, but
starts with an E.
Yeah, see, look. And then every time I push a little name,
it gives you another clue.
Who had the hit Lover Girl in the 80s? Let's just Google it. Tina Marie.
Okay.
Tina Marie did. Okay.
So the thing is broke.
Yeah, it's broke. Okay, enough of that. Last thing. Can I tell you got time for one last thing?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll keep it short. Dude, this is so back in like the 90s, back when we, we're doing comedy down in San Diego. If you can see this letter right here, this is hilarious. There was I used to work at a comedy club called Comedy Night. I'd work there during the day, answer phones, try to like push out like tickets, really promote it. And they, for some reason, this letter came across, and it was a guy trying to get booked at the club, and they gave me a copy of the letter because I thought it was just hilarious. I just kept it just because I thought it was funny. And through the years, it stayed in a box where you move, and then I found this when we moved to this apartment, and I got to share you this letter. This is hilarious. This is from the 90s, like 30 years ago almost. This guy's trying to get booked. He writes, to whom it, and you can interrupt anytime. He goes, I should say not interrupt, but you could jump in. To whom it may concern, I am very interested in working at your club. I used to work for a private entertainment company that catered to high rollers, jet setters, top executives, and very influential business people from around the world. These private functions were never more than once a month. So my act remained a hobby that gave me extra income. But now I am ready to go public. My routine is based mainly on true stories, which I purposely started gathering at a young age because I got a kick out of it. I have a lot of sex stories and bathroom humor, things that make everyone relatable, or they can at least imagine. My descriptions and scenarios make them very unique. I like to use lots of profanity, but I can tone it down if necessary. My routine can change by the second because I like to get the crowd involved. I encourage hecklers. And when it comes to ad-lib situation, I have no peers. I always win. If you're interested in meeting me, please call me for an appointment.
That's hilarious. I kept waiting for you to be like, and it turned out to be Kevin Hart.
I know. I wish it was. No, it's yeah. It didn't even say.
Interesting. So people used to send letters like that, huh?
Yeah, it's so weird. Like that's the opposite of what you'd want to do. I do lots of bathroom humor. I encourage hecklers. It's
right.
It's like,
that's probably why no one ever responded to that letter.
I know. That's why he ended up in the garbage can, and I retrieved it.
Saved it for 30 years later to doing my podcast.
I know exactly. I know. Dang, man, that's like, ugh. Have you ever done that? You ever sent a letter like that?
No, I don't think I've ever sent a letter. Like, I think by the time I got to like contacting clubs, it was minimum email.
Right. Yeah.
I remember how long did that take to get there? And like, how do you know if they got it? I mean, I guess nowadays you don't know if they got your email either, but it's not the same level of commitment. Like,
yeah.
There's much work into taking it to the mailbox. And
I know. I know. Standing in line. I got to stand in line. Yeah, you got to stand in line at the post office to hopefully dang. Like when I started, like back then, we used to just make phone calls. You'd call. I talked to this comic that was big in the 70s. His name is Denny Johnston. And he goes, yeah, he goes, one day I'd set aside, okay, this is the one day that I'm going to make these calls. And he goes, I pick up my phone, fill out my calendar for the year, and then move on. I didn't have to do anything else. He goes, you get booked all on one day off phone calls. I call this place. They'd have 5 rooms at this place. And these guys were living like rock stars back then. I was talking to Fraser Smith about that. He said during the comedy boom for about 10 years, there was all these comics from like 79 to 1989 that were getting paid lots of money, getting flown first class, staying at nice places, and when they're in town, back then they were on the morning radio shows, and those radio shows were huge back in those towns back in the day. And they'd be on the radio and so all the people would come out and see them, and they'd, like the Kansas City Chiefs would be like, be my guest, come through and take a tour backstage. And so they would just, one thing to lead to another. And and he said, but what the sad part is because they lived like rock stars like that, 15 years would go by and then they never really progressed. A lot of them never really progressed anything further than that because they weren't, he goes, guys like
they needed to.
Yeah. He goes, guys like Jay Leno, Seinfeld, they kept working on trying to get on TV. They didn't, want to live like that, like out of a suitcase week after week, 50 weeks a year and all that.
Interesting.
But it's just how the world changes now. We can do, podcast stuff online, all that good stuff. And
right. You still want to do the road though.
Yeah. You want to do the road. Yeah. You definitely want to, but you know what? The road was longer back then, I think. Like I remember even when I would open, I used to do some rooms. You'd be gone. The shows would start on Tuesday, then Wednesday, then Thursday, then 2 Friday, 2 Saturday, 1 Sunday.
Right.
And it wouldn't be so bad because I'd be like, okay, this is what I got. Like I got one of those this month. But imagine if it's just like
every week.
Yeah.
I'm
6
glad
weeks.
they shortened the weeks down. That's helped the road be a lot easier to do.
Yeah.
Wednesday through Saturday.
Yeah.
Or like here for the weekend.
Yeah. Oh, I love those times when you're just there, like, like a Thursday, Friday, Saturday. That's perfect. Like 3 days, maybe even 2 days.
Right.
Kareem, in closing, do you have anything, any words of wisdom, anything new you'd want to tell us? I love your last parable or your last advice. It was great. Never give up. Even famous Amos wasn't always famous.
Yeah, I was just going to say, that's what I always give, you know what I mean? Because until I make it, that's going to be what I live by, But it's like, keep following your dreams, man. It's like the moment you give up, it's over. It's like with stocks. You never take a loss until you sell your stocks. As long as you keep holding on, it's not a loss. They can always go back up, Same thing with this business. Anything can happen with instantly. Your life could change for the better, But if you stop doing it, then that chance is gone.
Absolutely. Kareem, you're the best. Have a great rest of your day. And thanks for being on the Pocket Party podcast. And I'll see you soon. And we'll be on a sidewalk somewhere doing interviews, and we'll make sure not to put our backs to the street.
Absolutely. Probably tonight.
I'll be there tonight. Let's do it. Yeah.
Cool talking to you as always, man, Darren. Absolutely.
Likewise. And guys, go to my YouTube channel if you're not already on there right now and look at some of my previous vlogs. Kareem's in them. We actually did one night where we lifted up the sidewalk and we looked down there because Kareem, we were talking about how there's like these underground cities all over LA. Google it. We're not lying. Go check it out. Underground cities in Los Angeles. I Googled it later. I'm like, damn, there really was. There really is. All right, Kareem. I'll see you later.
Have a good one.
All right. I'm going to go get some famous Amos cookies. I'll see you, buddy. Bye.
We're done with this interview.
Oh, yeah, baby. You know what time it is. Time to get that party started all up in your ear holes. Here we go. When you had a bad day and you want those bad vibes to go away.
When every day life gets harder. Darren.
Carter.
You need the party starter.
It's the Pocket Party Podcast.
With the run.
Pocket Party Podcast.
In your ear holes.
Pocket Party Podcast.
In your ear holes.
Pocket Party Podcast. Or if your day needed a booster, then you need to talk to Red Rooster. Mr. Carter about to take you to school. Here we go. Don't hurt nobody and don't hurt yourself.